I'm Michael Martinez. Welcome to the podcast by SEO Theory. We've got a few things that I want to share with you. This is the first episode of what may become a semi-regular podcast. I don't know how much time I'll have for it. Those of you who are familiar with the SEO Theory blog may recall that I used to write for it very regularly. And it's been a long time since I've had that kind of free time. I still work on a lot of SEO projects, and I write a weekly premium SEO theory newsletter. So most of what I do for SEO theory, the website, goes into that weekly newsletter. If you like to keep up with my thoughts on the latest developments in the search engine optimization industry, that's the way to really follow what I say. It's the subscriptions are only $25 a month. In any event, let me talk about a few things here that have been on my mind this week. First thing up is the Google MUVERA algorithm. The SEO industry finally found out about this algorithm because the AI blog wrote about it a few weeks ago. What the SEO community seems to be unaware of is that Google actually released this algorithm last year, 2024. It's not really a very critical algorithm for search engine indexing or ranking or anything like that. It is a revolutionary algorithm. I wrote about it fairly extensively in a recent newsletter. And if I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would say that basically Google found a way to replace a very complex, time-consuming computational process with a shortened guesstimate of what a single data point would look like. And so it is being used. The MUVERA algorithm is being used by other companies, and I'm sure Google's using it in some of their machine learning processes, but it was not a major step forward for uh, what SEOs think of as search engine engineering or anything like that. Moving on, someone asked me to review their company this week, and I have worked with that company. I think very highly of them, of the work they're doing, but they offered me a not so much a bribe as a reward for writing the review. And I'll have to admit that that doesn't sit well with me. First of all, I very rarely review SEO tools or companies or anything like that. I have a lot of reason not to do that. I want people to appreciate my opinions as unbiased, unpaid for, and which is it's not easy to keep walk that line because I am a practicing SEO professional, and much of my career has been devoted to working on reputation repair campaigns. And so I'm not out there lying on the internet to people about people with unsavory reputations or anything like that. But it is it's very challenging to manage a reputational structure in the work I do and not give into the temptation to just get out there and start writing reviews for pay. I do that. So I would appreciate it if people don't try to reward me for reviewing your companies and services, whether I've worked with you or not. Uh, that I would just rather not get involved in that. Now, I understand why people are starting to do this. I mean, there have always been paid reviews and paid review services. It's always been a controversial practice in the SEO world. I'm not going to talk about the history of it, but a lot of people have now figured out that AI overviews tend to use as grounding links a lot of third-party references, and they're thinking not quite correctly that all you have to do is just go out and get some reviews, and the large language model will Gemini will reward you for that. So first of all, AI overviews. It is generated by Gemini. It's not a part of the search engine, at least not yet. Google hasn't disclosed that. They published a patent for this algorithm a couple of years ago, and I I found at least one SEO blog that's written about it, but most of the SEO community seems to be unaware of the patent. The AI overview process is fairly simple. You run a query on the search engine, and its query processing system just decides whether or not to ask Gemini to summarize the results for you. and it's got Gemini has some guardrails, I guess you could say, or some standards. It's going to select some higher quality content. So you might have up to 1,000 listings. It's not just going to randomly pick from those listings. It's going to pick from what Google considers to be reputable websites. And of course, in the SEO industry, nobody has an ugly baby. Everybody's content is of the highest quality, yada, yada, yada. That's not the way it works. Google has some unpublished standards, I guess you could say, or it's just very hard to meet their published standards the way that the SEO industry would like to. So AI overviews, which is not AI mode, AI overviews is pulling in third-party references from high-quality websites. In Google's opinion, like Wikipedia gets cited a lot. A lot of people have various opinions of Wikipedia. I could certainly criticize it all day long, but I would consider Wikipedia to be a high quality website in that respect because uh, there are just about 10,000 people monitoring Wikipedia and editing the content. So even though it's not a perfect website, it is under constant human review, and I think that's very important for quality. Um, and that's about all I'm going to say on AI overviews. I've written about it extensively for the SEO3 Premium newsletter. Yes, I'm going to plug the SEO Theory Premium newsletter. You don't have to subscribe to it to get anything useful out of this podcast, but I'm going to remind you that I do write about these things extensively. How do you establish brand values? Now, this goes back to a lot of stuff that's been going on in SEO since around 2010. Eric Schmidt, when he was the head of Google at the time, gave an interview where he said he thought that the cesspool of the web could be solved or fixed by emphasizing brands, and then Google started doing its brand stuff. They've gotten some things right with their brand centric emphasis, and then they've also messed some things up. I mean, Google's let itself in for a lot of criticism with some of its decisions. In their favor, I'll say that anybody who wants to crawl, index, and rank trillions of URLs is probably going to make some mistakes too. So I'm not going to dwell on that. But brand value is a little bit different for each of us. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would just say that it's whatever it is about a company, a product, or a service, or a person that is memorable enough to at least one person that one person likes it, appreciates it, and prefers it. So there are people who will visit SEO Theory regularly, or my some of my other websites like the Middle Earth blog, simply because they appreciate what I have to say. And there are people who are just absolutely devoted to Wikipedia. There are people who read CNN every day. That's what brand value is. It's you establish a relationship of trust and recognition between yourself or your company and an audience. And that audience could be a size of one person or millions of people. And so, how do you measure brand value? That's a different question, but every search engine's got to solve that issue for itself. And I think the SEO community has sometimes gone way off the deep end in trying to assess how brand value could be quantified. I don't know that they're really quantifying it. They're looking as much as I hate correlation analysis, and the SEO community loves it, the search engines do look for correlations, but they do it in a very different way from how the SEO community looks for correlations. So uh, they're going to find signals on websites that mm, indicate there is an appreciation between an audience and a website or a company or something. And they're going to equate that to a certain extent with what we're calling brand value. But it's not like there's a brand value score that you can earn and uh, boost with your search engine optimization. Doesn't work like that. A lot of people have turned to Google's EAT concept and uh, they're trying to use that as a way to create or boost brand value. that's not going to work because that's not what EAT is about. EAT, of course, the current EAT uh, iteration is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. I've written about these things extensively for the SEO Theory Premium newsletter. And by the way, what I what I write about is very different from what you're going to find in the SEO blogosphere and at SEO conferences. I'm not simply recapping what other people say or reiterating the same generic points, talking points that you get from a lot of this stuff. Experience. I'll give you an example. So uh, we express our experience through our personal anecdotes and our opinions. If you let's say that you're an auto mechanic and you're posting on a forum and somebody uh, gets on the forum and they say, my car is making a funny sound. And they describe the sound and they say, it only happens when I do this. I shift into a certain gear or something like that. And you, as the auto mechanic, could immediately follow up and say, well, that sounds like you've got a problem with this part. You might not be changing your oil often enough. And with that model car, you've got this kind of an engine. I see these kinds of discussions all the time in web forums and on social media where somebody who has legitimate expertise just comes right out and talks about stuff that you're not going to get a freelance writer to talk about because they're out there reading blogs and news articles and things, and they're trying to summarize it. Now, of course, they're using large language model tools to summarize things for them, and they don't have what you could call institutional knowledge or generational knowledge. They don't have that extensive background where they can just identify a problem in the back of their mind. I've actually seen this in real life. When I was in college, of course, like many people who struggle through college, I had to work a part-time job, and I had a used car. I drove a used car, and I found this mechanic in my area who was really good. He had a great reputation. The guy, his name was Max Steinhauer. He you could take any kind of a car to him, and he would understand everything about that car right off the bat. I remember I was standing there waiting to get my tires changed one day or something like that, and this woman drives up and she walks in the door and she's obviously upset. And Max turns to her and he goes, "What can I help you with?" And she says, "My car's making a funny sound." And he could hear the car through the door. And he goes, "I know what that is." And he describes this part that's worn out and she has to get it replaced or the car is going to gradually start, degrading in performance and stuff like that. And there were like three other guys standing there with me, and they were all older than me, and some of them were like backyard mechanics. And we're all just standing there looking at each other like, oh my God, this guy diagnosed the car problem just by listening to the car. And I mean, Max had a reputation for doing that all the time. You could take a car into him with any kind of a weird problem. He would just look at it and he'd go, yeah, you got this problem, something like this. He'd turn to one of his mechanics and say, here's what you need to do. So when he finally retired, of course he retired years ago, and a lot of people just felt like one of the greats of the auto repair industry that was gone. But that's the kind of expertise that people express on the internet. Just naturally, you just share what you've been through. I mean, there are people who write about their weekly mushroom expeditions out into to local forests and things like that. They're not SEOs. They don't rank for mushroom recipes and how to pick the best mushrooms or anything like that. These are people who just write random blogs, and over the years, for whatever reason, I just find them through following links or whatever. And they just have all sorts of fascinating stories about what it is that they're doing out in the woods, what they're doing with their mushrooms, and why they got into it, and all this stuff. This is the kind of experience that freelance writers try to emulate, and they do such a bad job of it. And of course, now you have people all over the web complaining about how the SEO industry has just ruined the web because we put all these fake anecdotes and things on these websites and push them up to the top of Google search results with links and things like that. And that's what is missing from all these eight formulas that the SEO industry has been pushing for years is they're not legitimately sharing real experience. They're just telling you, oh yeah, I've got a PhD, or they, they go out and they hire a doctor who's for whatever reason doing freelance writing, and they put a little bio box at the bottom of the article. And I laugh at these people and I say, look, you ought to put a picture of the doctor on there in a lab coat so everybody knows it's a real expert. But experience and expertise, they go hand in hand, and you express them through your own words. You express them through your idiom. You're just sharing. It doesn't matter if you're writing an editorial for the Wall Street Journal, or writing an article for some travel magazine, or just writing a blog post. When you're sincere and legitimate, it's very different from when you're trying to write for a keyword matrix. In the SEO industry, they build up these formulaic processes that work for a while, and then eventually the search engines catch on to what's going on because you create this pattern, and they just start filtering out the pattern. And of course, you have all these people going, "Oh, Google hates us. We've made this business on the basis of Google, and we're not able to survive. Screw you, Google. You're terrible, and I hate your search results and all that stuff." The SEO industry does it to itself. They do it to their customers. A lot of people now are disavowing links to their websites, which is stupid. And there's no reason to disavow links to your website. There hasn't been since September 2016. And that's because Google changed the Penguin algorithm so that it basically just ignores the links that it thinks are bad. You don't need to tell Google which links are bad. Google is deciding for itself which links are bad. And the only way a link can be toxic now is if it legitimately hurts your rankings, in which case you're going to get a manual action notice in Google Search Console. If you're not getting manual action notices, you have no toxic links. You have no links that are hurting you, and you shouldn't be disavowing them. Where the disavow tool came from was in 2011 and 2012. A lot of people in the SEO community were upset with Google for its aggressive penalization of websites over paid links. Now, should they have been buying those links for their clients? Of course not. But they created this competitive environment where they said all you need is links, or you have to compete on links. And Google said, fine, if you want to do that, we're just going to penalize your websites. Well, in 2012, of course, they came out with the first version of the Penguin algorithm, which went after the homepage backlink networks. And the way they identified those networks was the homepage of all those sites uh, published full blog posts. And they were on multiple topics. There was no consistency whatsoever. If you go to the Middle Earth blog, you're just going to see excerpts. But even if I publish full blog posts on the Middle Earth blog or on SEO Theory, you're going to see that all the articles are generally about the same topic. And they're not, we're not trying to be like CNN and publish multiple, news stories about all these different things going on. I say CNN, but any major news website, DW, France 24, the BBC, they're all covering just tons and tons of stories across many different industries. But they don't look like the homepage backlink blogs look like. The homepage backlink blogs were quickly done. They were ugly. The quality of the content was terrible. People didn't care about what they wrote. They just wanted to get the links with the keywords and the keyword anchor text in there. And that was very easy for Google to identify. And they took out thousands of websites in March and April of 2012. And I I wasn't really directly involved in any of that stuff at that time. I had uh, in previous years worked with the 10 links a day network by Phantom Master. So yeah, I played in that game too. But I went to Matt Cutts, and I said, look, I'm not disagreeing with what you're doing here, but there are many small to mid-sized businesses who listened to the SEO industry talk about the paid links, and they didn't really get a different story. They didn't understand that they were violating Google's guidelines. They've got no way to come back from this, and people's livelihoods depend on this. Is why can't we have a disavow tool so that once you've figured out what they're doing, they can just tell you, okay, I don't want those links anymore, and I want to start over. And he was skeptical at the time. He had heard this request from so many people. I don't know who else went to him around the same time or after I did, but uh, basically, I think Matt really took to heart what I and hopefully a few other people told him at the time. And a few months later, they came out with the disavow tool. The purpose of the disavow tool was to help websites get out of this hole that the SEO industry had dug them into. And so there's really no need for the disavow tool anymore. I've seen John Mueller get on social media a few times in the past 5, 6 years and say, look, we're not really sure there's a need for this. Everybody's going, oh, no, no, you got to give us the disavow tool. We need it. We need it. You do not need the disavow tool anymore. There's just no real purpose for it. If you get a manual action for paid links now, you're being very egregious about it. And you're going to have to really be honest with Google about what you're doing if you want to get out of that situation. You're not going to get those links quite back. Whether they helped you or not doesn't matter. Once you're caught, you're busted for good. And those links are dead forever. It doesn't matter what you do to try and fix them. So at any rate, I guess I've ranted enough about what the SEO industry is doing. I hope you appreciate this podcast. I'll try to get back to it. But again, I'm going to plug it one more time. The SEO Theory Premium Newsletter, just search for it on Bing or Google, is where I do most of my writing and have been for I guess 13 years now. It's been quite a while since I started it. Um, so thank you for listening, and I hope I'll get back to you in a week or so.